you for joining us and for coming to Split. You were one of the invited artists, so we are very happy that you accepted the invitation.
Thank you for inviting me, of course.
And we always start these talks with the first question. How did you spend your last few days here, and how did you find this space? We are actually in a very specific environment at the moment. I think for both of us this is not a supernatural
of course, yes.
environment. We just accidentally switched on washing machine, so we hope that won't happen during the talk. Why did you even choose this place? Because we offered you a few of restaurants and souvenir shops, tourist agency here in city center. So why did you find this tapas bar particularly interesting, and how was it to be here? You're here since Monday.
Yes, so first I have to say that my first decision was whether to do something site-specific or not, and then I decided not to do a site-specific project. Then, in that sense, it really wasn't so important which space I would choose, but I kind of went with the one that felt nice. So this one kind of looked cozy on the images, and also since it's lockdown for bars and restaurants, it's really nice for me to spend some time in a restaurant, although without food, but
did you cook anything?
Not yet, but it might happen. And yes, so during the past few days have been very interesting. A lot of people have come here to visit me and to talk about my work and also their practices and interests. So I met some really interesting people from the local scene and community, also some professors from the Academy of Art in Split and some theoreticians that are kind of doing research on similar topics as me, so that was great. And basically I used my time here not to do so much of a production of artistic material, but more to do research for one bigger project that will happen later in this year.
Okay, we will talk about the project later on, but I mean that's great that a lot of different professions came here, and that's also one of the goals of this project, and so that you can make some collaborations, connections, and meet people.
Can you just put the microphone?
Okay. Is it better now? Okay, let's try like this.
Yes. So we will shift to the microphone. Yeah.
Yes, we were hoping not to do, but let's do it. Yes, I was saying that I was talking about the different audience. So were there any specific situation that was maybe a bit weird, or some sort of encounters that you didn't expect it, and how did people actually reacted? Of course, there are some people that arrived just to meet you, and they knew about your practice, but were there any like random passengers coming in, stepping by, talking about other things than art?
Yeah, I mean, that always kind of happens with this kind of projects or open studios. People will enter. So I want... there's a person coming here.
There is a sound issue, so let's just fix that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems we have a sound issue, a technical issue, so we will wait just a short bit.
How about now?
Is the sound issue fixed?
Maybe people in Zoom can.
Now it's better.
Now it's better.
But at the moment there is some noise. Like I don't know, it's coming from the cable. So maybe if you touch something.
Okay. Now, what about now?
Now it's okay.
Okay. So now it will be like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So no mic.
No mic.
No mic. Okay,
so
great.
So we will yell.
Sorry about this.
Yes. It's okay. So can you
yes.
please repeat the question? Were there? Okay,
yes.
I remember. Well, I won't talk about anyone specifically, but there have been various people coming in, and I always find it kind of challenging to translate my work for different audiences or different people. So it's much different when a professor from Art Academy who is also working with video and multimedia comes, and when there is somebody who doesn't even have knowledge of multimedia art or sound art, then kind of I try to use this time to explain the medium, the nature of multimedia art, etc. And then I talk about my work. So I kind of try to make it, I wouldn't say simpler, but maybe do more explanations or not use, I don't know, terms like hyperobjects or you know what I mean, yeah.
And what were their reactions?
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, people, there's a usual kind of reaction to artists that maybe don't do traditional media. From a lot of people, they're just like, what? You know, but in a sense, you can explain to people what it means and what it means to have a process and artistic research, and then people, I mean, they get it. It's easy. Yeah.
And what about Split? Have you been before in Split? Have you exhibited in Split or did some work here? Or was this your first sort of like closer encounter?
Well, actually, that's a good question. I actually did one exhibition in Split in MKC Space, in organization of Darko Fritz from Grey Area and Laura Netz from London. It was called Sounding DIY, so it was about do-it-yourself culture and electronics. That was 2018. And also in 2018 I opened up the Device Art Festival in Split with my performance in Kino Beton.
Oh,
yeah. So I know already a bit of the scene and I know some curators here, but this has given me a different chance, an opportunity to see Split in a different light, or in, of course, to meet you and some new people, and also to move through different parts of the city. Because I never was so much based here in the center of Split, so now I kind of already can navigate through these narrow streets. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so we can maybe now go to the work that you're working on here and now. So can you tell us more about it and how did you use your time here?
Okay, so I can maybe first I would like to say that I'm just beginning with this work. I have it planned already for some time, but so I might also get a bit confused while talking about it, because I'm still kind of trying to get all the bricks in place about what it is. But basically I have written down one sentence, very simple one, but that is important to me, and it says technologies influence our understanding of the world. So kind of I would like to do a research about what is a phenomenology of a human being, me, in comparison to a totalized view of the Earth. I'm kind of dealing with the geoinformatics and the way that the landscapes are represented by technological means. So maybe it would be best if I do some screen sharing and show some kind of sketches or some kind of pictures that would make my ideas more accessible. So let me see. Yes, so hopefully now I'm sharing my screen and everyone can see it.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this idea of in media theory of the observer, the gaze, and the way an image is produced and shown, these are kind of very basic ideas in media theory, but very important ones. And especially in the 21st century and the Anthropocene, the digital technology has really changed the way we can see reality and the world. And it kind of does a weird and I would say schizophrenic thing for us, which maybe we are not aware of it. So maybe first thing what I would show is this image, which is basically an image made by the Mars rover Curiosity, and it's the surface of Mars. I mean, it is basically, and it's the perspective of the image is as if a person is standing there. So this is not something that you and I or anybody should see if there was not technology. In this sense, technology really does change the way we know the world, we experience it. This one also. And what is interesting, these are raw images, so they are black and white. And then there is the, not this, but the other thing is these images, they can get enhanced and colorized, and they are not really taken this way, so they are fake. all of these kind of I would like to work with. So now I'm going a bit broad maybe, but you feel free to stop me. I want to show some more and get a bit more specific. I was very much interested in Google Earth and geoinformatics and the way they portray the planet. And what you can get now is this image of complete planet Earth in front of your eyes, but it's not an image of whole planet Earth, it's a collage of a lot of images. And I kind of like this picture. It's from Google Earth and it says you are currently running an experimental version of Earth, which I think we are in a way as humanity in 21st century. So these kind of things I would play with in this project. Also, this is something, travel the world without leaving your seat. I find this very interesting.
And it's very relevant now with all this situation.
Especially with the coronavirus and the lockdowns and the closed borders, which was not my main focus, but of course I cannot ignore it. And what it does, basically, it kind of erases the exploration of space and the personal experience. So what I would like to do is do one action of walking, long distance walking. I won't go so much into that now, but by being in the landscape, by being immersed in the landscape, I would like to kind of contrast that to this whole digitalized world of images. So yes, and that for that reason, I would like to use different technologies also to create kind of a personalized map or topography, which isn't representing reality, but something personal and mine. And here in Split, I have been walking around the hill Marian, which is beautiful, and I liked it a lot. And also use this opportunity to do some sketches, to record some GPS trails, and to do some 3D scanning of it's basically photogrammetry, and photogrammetry is this method of compositing a lot of images of one object to create a 3D model. So I can show some sketches to people. Here we see one rock, and this rock was basically recorded on island of Lastovo this summer. Then this is aloe vera plant from my studio, and I'm very much interested in this kind of glitches, or well, not glitches but mistakes, and the way the machine sees, and the machine doesn't understand what it sees, so it does this very weird image. So I would like to contrast all the time this kind of failing of the machine and the failing of me as a human in a kind of way, but also contrast these two things all the time and what they can produce. Here's one more rock, also from Lastovo Island. Then one more, salty. One more.
And how do you see this, production-wise, how do you see this process develop further on from where you now?
For sure I know it will be an essay, so I just don't know if it is in which medium it will be realized. It could be video, it could be installation, it could be video installation, it could be lecture performance, but I do know it's an essay that kind of talks about different topics that I already mentioned. One more thing to show and then I will get to normal view, or two more things. Here we have a map, to get back on the idea of maps, map of Marian. And you can kind of see also, this is interesting to me, different kinds of resolution, different kinds of image qualities, different kinds of representation, with this final one that is totally abstract. I don't know what it is. So I would like to work with that, and maybe also work with macro photography, with really small details of the landscape. And I have some more shapes from the 3D models, which are basically... I have some technical issues on my laptop, but I hope you can see. This is the way the machine sees the world. So this is not made for humans to consume this image, it's made just to be a part of a 3D model. And I'm very much interested in these also raw images and what kind of quality they produce. So here we have some more. These are roots. And we have some more rocks. Yeah.
Great,
These are-
thank you
yeah.
for sharing this.
Okay, so yeah, I will stop now
We
with
hope
this.
that everything, we have so many screens around us,
Yes.
so hopefully everything goes well.
No, that's what I'm talking
Yes.
about in my work. That's it.
Do you already have some appointments with some galleries for exhibitions of this, or did you find funding for this project, some collaborators?
Well, a part of the funding is going through Ministry of Culture in Croatia, and they do have collaborators, Metamedia Association in Pula.
Okay.
So I will work with them.
So do you already know when this will be done, when we can see this, or where it will be shown?
Hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
But where it will be shown, I still don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
let us know, so we will
Okay.
share. Okay, so let's go a bit back to some of your previous works. You did in the past you did some collaborative works.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about how do you find the collaborative work, and can you tell us more about this process of collaboration in it?
Of course, for me collaboration is very important, and I love it, and I think it really helps every artist to grow and to have new experiences and to learn new stuff and share knowledge and support each other. I don't know how collaborations do happen. I mean, through friendship, through knowing people from the scene, or sometimes through an open call or somebody just approaching you to work with them, but mostly it's very organic and very natural, just the way it happens.
Is it
Yeah.
always with other artists, or do you also collaborate with researchers, other professions?
Not always with artists, so I collaborated with artists coming from different fields and media, with sound artists, with artists coming from contemporary movement and dance, with musicians, with visual artists, but also for some of my projects I collaborated with scientists and chemists, and this was very important to me because maybe I have some idea which I cannot realize, and then with exchange of knowledge with these people it can be realized. And I also think the dialogue that then happens between, let's say, a scientist and an artist is also very important, because specifically two of the people that helped me in one project, Gold Rush, they one of them works on how it's called in English, University of Science, I think, and the other one works in chemical and natural science high school. So they also learn something new that they maybe will show to their students or invite them to some exhibition. And also I learn a lot from them. So it's, I think it's very important for contemporary artists to collaborate. Yeah.
But you also have a background in another field, in psychology.
Yes.
And how did you decide to continue your studies at the Academy of Arts, specifically new media arts? And do you use, or does this background of yours influence your artistic work now?
I don't know. I wouldn't say so much. I hope not. I mean, already when I was studying psychology, I kind of participated in the do-it-yourself scene of Zagreb and this kind of non-institutional new media scene. So it was just a logical progression to also go to new media in Zagreb, which really helped me to form myself as an artist, and the professors there were amazing and gave me really great input and knowledge and experience. But psychology, I mean, I don't know, maybe it helped me as a person. Yeah, I don't know, but as I do have one work about dreams and sleeping, but also I'm not taking knowledge from psychology to realize this work, but it's more based on feeling. So what psychology did give me, well, the study of how do you call it, društvena znanost?
Social
social science, it gave me a structure. So maybe it gave me this nerdy side, and I can structure maybe, which is super useful actually in writing applications and getting funding and applying for residencies and so on.
But
so maybe
also
in this
in
way.
developing your work, I guess, in a more structured way, maybe.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that you were thinking about doing something site-specific. Do you usually work site-specific? And maybe you can tell us if you do of some of your projects that you did like that. And also, how do you connect the media you work in, which is sound or video or other new medias, with the site specificity?
Well, I don't work so much with site specificity, and also here I decided not to, and it was actually it was very hard to ignore the fact that I'm in a tapas bar, and it's a very strong space visually and what it is and everything. But now I cannot remember any. Maybe I did, but I cannot remember any project really I did
That was directly
site specific. Maybe indirectly yes, but directly no.
And did you ever think of working in some sort of public spaces or public sphere? We are not here this is a private space in a sense, but in a sense it's quite open to the public. So how do you think that, let's say, a medium of sound can maybe work with within the public art domain, or in a sense that it is not so invasive, but it could be, and it could tell some other stories? Did you ever think about it?
I did actually. While I was in university, my diploma was kind of on this trail. I did a pirate radio station that I would carry as a backpack on my back, and then people would go to sound walks with me in the city, and they would listen to the surrounding soundscape, and it was what they would hear anyhow, but just medialized through the radio. I found this interesting, what the medium does in this way of our perception. But I mean, sound in public space is something in theory a lot of people have written about. I really like writings by Brandon Labelle and his concept of background noise and acoustic territories. And also a lot of artists I really like their work, who work in public space, like Janet Cardiff and so on. Sound can be really used in a lot of ways in public space. It really depends on what you want to achieve. Maybe you want to erase sound from public space by making some kind of objects in the street that will remove it, or maybe specifically in this street here, maybe our audience doesn't see it, but it's a very small street in old part of the city. It would really depend on what you want to achieve, but you would have to be careful not to annoy the neighbors, unless you want to do it, which I wouldn't want to do, I mean. So it's a very interesting medium, because especially sound is ephemeral and not tactile, but yes, tactile, and you cannot close your ears, as in the same way you can close your eyes, and it comes from all sides, so... Yeah, it's a great medium for public
it's something
space.
we meet every day in one way or another. So it's great that you mentioned the materiality of your work, because this is also something I want to ask you about. So how to work with these works that, as an artist, that are ephemeral and that, or specifically the sound or some other types that are actually non-material, in terms of documentation, also maybe position on the art market, and how do you work with that? Let's start with documentation or presentation in future.
Documentation really depends on the work. Sometimes I use photography if there is some object, or if it's just sound, then it's very easy because you can just upload the sound file itself to the internet. But then there's a whole question of how loud does the sound have to be, or is it stereo, or is it multi-channel?
But let me stop you there, but then you kind of also change the experience of the work, because
extremely. This is now with this time where there is no concerts, this is very obvious, because we have these Zoom concerts and live stream concerts, but the first thing they lack is community, and also the volume. They are not so loud, and really people who go to concerts, at least one part of the experience is the loudness of concerts. And then you asked me about the art market.
Yes. We talked about this before, and this is super broad topic. But yeah, it is kind of like maybe also nice just to think about it.
First, I would say which art market? In Croatia specifically.
Yeah, but let's talk like in a broader sense, like how the non-material in that sense work can actually exist on the art market, or you know.
Okay, not talking about my work, but
but
in
general.
Of course, I mean, sound artists can do performances, and then of course that's something that is marketable, and with this performative turn that is happening now in the museums of the world, it's actually very important. More and more institutions for the past, I don't know, 20, 30 years are placing this huge emphasis on live performances. I mean, everything that is live is kind of immaterial, but also material. And there are different ways. I mean, you can go to residencies, do workshops. This is what I do. This is how I earn a living. Mostly for this exchange of knowledge, teaching, not teaching in a classical sense, but in workshops, maybe for kids, maybe for younger people, and stuff like that.
Okay, and you also mentioned do-it-yourself culture, and so it is a topic that you recently started to work with as well. So maybe you can tell us how did you start this? Why did you find this interesting? And it is getting kind of more and more, let's say, do-it-yourself culture is getting more and more coming into the so-called high arts scene. So maybe I would just like to hear your comment on that, and and its relation to something that is somehow crafty, you know. It is kind of like getting a lot. Many artists are becoming interested in that.
Yes. For some time now, I would guess from the 80s or even earlier, people have already started doing this DIY thing. In Yugoslavia, it was something specific with this Uradi Sam magazine and this whole culture of, specifically men maybe in Yugoslavia who did this kind of stuff, but it was this crafty work kind of. I mean, women as well, but more with like sewing. It was gendered back then. But I don't know why I went in this direction now.
Let's go back.
Okay, it's so much relevance for every topic from different angles. It's kind of, do-it-yourself culture. Actually, for me, it was super important because that's how I got into art, and specifically through IMM Media Lab in Zagreb, which is now turned into this place called Radiona, and I'm not at this time associated with them, but I do follow their work, and I think they're doing super important work actually for Croatian scene. And then do-it-yourself is all about citizens getting knowledge. It's about accessibility of knowledge. It's about learning stuff. It's about repairing your own computer. And I personally don't use everything open source. I use Windows, I use paid software, but I try to, as much as I can, use open source software and implement that in my work. Especially in the practice I was doing until 1 year ago, everything was based on a kind of DIY approach. Now I'm going more into some kind of media research or performative actions. I'm changing something, I still don't know completely what,
But would you say it is actually quite related, because maybe the whole thing about do-it-yourself culture and craft culture is actually connected to the machines today, and to the Anthropocene and everything that is happening now with...
Actually yes, because that's what it's about. I mean, it's when you get your cell phone or when you get your laptop, it's a black box and you don't know how it works. And kind of the goal of every medium is to make the machine invisible, and you just work with the content. And then in my practice always I want to make the machine visible and the underlying mechanisms of the machine or the production of image or materiality of the machine. I want to make that visible. For instance, we think of computers as something kind of immaterial because we are always in these clouds, in internet, but it's all very material. I mean, internet has cables going through the ocean, and computers are made from raw materials that are sourced in mining operations throughout the world. And I think it's very important for people to think about this because if your computer and cell phone contain conflict minerals or contain some minerals that the extraction of is environmentally damaging the planet, we should at least know that, and then maybe that would be a great starting point to change the way they are made. So DIY culture for me relates to this a lot. Yeah.
Okay, Christina, I would ask you if you already didn't, just to put Tin's website maybe in the comments in the chat, so people can maybe see some of his works that we are talking about now. And do we have maybe some questions, because we have been talking for a while now?
Yeah,
so
we have one
yeah.
question.
Okay, let's.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
From Vlad.
Hi, Vlad.
He is curious what is the status of Tin and Jason project in Africa.
Well, maybe that's not. Thank you for the question, Vlad. But maybe that's not the topic of this residency, so we can talk privately about it later. I think that's best. But it's going well. I will say it like that.
Okay. I forgot to ask you one question at the beginning. So, of course, this was an unusual environment for you to work in, but as a studio. But how do you usually work? Do you have your own studio as an artist? And how was it different that this way of working?
I do.
Okay.
I do have a studio which I share with 8 more people, and we are called M28, and we are situated in Kvatrić in Zagreb, and I think it's the most important thing for me. And for my practice is to have this community of friends and great thinking people with me, and then we share knowledge, we help each other, we support each other. I think it's very important for all artists to think about community and how they can form this kind of informal work groups. So it's not a hub, it's not a co-working space, it's just us who are friends, do similar things, and we do it in the same space. And I mean, it's different a lot because that's my home.
And was that I mean, not just yours, but was it that initiative of your group, or how did you actually start it with this space?
We started because 2 friends, Hrvoje Spudić and Sven Sorić, were doing this project called This Town Needs Posters, and they had one space at the time, and then they wanted to move from that space to a bigger one, and then with some other friends, and me included, we kind of just found one space where we would be together. I don't remember now, but I think there was 4 or 5 of us in the beginning, and then 4 or 5 more people came. Some people came and were with us for a year, then moved from Zagreb, so we got some new people, and it's been going great for 3 years now.
Great. And we said we won't talk a lot about COVID, but I wanted to ask you, because I know that you were in the middle of some projects when the lockdown started, so maybe you can just shortly tell us maybe about those projects and how COVID influenced them, and what were you doing?
Yes, at the time I was on VHV Academia with Vlad, who asked the question, who I say hi to again, and it was hard for me personally. I don't know for others how it was, but it was also earthquake in Zagreb, which was maybe even more shocking to a lot of people than COVID. At this time, I think we are all kind of getting used to COVID, and but I don't know. I'm afraid if I start talking about it, I will talk for too much.
Maybe you can just say what were you doing there as a final project, and how it ended up.
It ended up great. I used one part of my former installation, which dealt with LCD screens. and it was called Less Screen Time, because I was frustrated with all this time on Zoom. So I took some broken LCD screens and just put them on light boxes and exhibited them in space, which I think worked very well with all the other works in the space, and it was good. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you mentioned some maybe parts of your artistic process. So maybe this is also not so specific question. Of course, I guess it depends on the work that you are doing. But maybe you can also tell us, because now a lot of people still can come in and see how you work. So if you can just describe how your process goes, like do you start from research, from some data, from maybe some stimuli, from environment, or do you continue with something you previously did, or how I mean, maybe there's no general answer, but maybe for these specific works, or yes.
Well, for every project it's different. I mean, for the past, let's say from 2017 until 2020, I was working with electronic waste. So it was basically a continuous process of just evolving and developing a practice. And of course, reading is very important to me, because then I get some ideas by other people that I can use also as my own, and also learning by doing. So especially in this recycling that I did and this working with electronic waste, I see it personally as kind of a building up that culminated with one work that is titled Gold Rush, where I extracted gold from computers, and that was kind of, for me, let's say, the end of this period of working with this topic in that way. And now I'm starting something new, and it was partially influenced by COVID, because spending 2 months at home, I really yearned to go to the forest and to nature, and so I started going as much as I can, and then I try to use that as something I really want to do in my life anyhow, as a generative force to make art. So I started reading about media theory and about image production that would relate to that. So it's always kind of for me a shift between some kind of experience I have and theory. Yeah. So here, now currently I'm mostly into reading.
Okay.
Yeah, so I read, and then at some point it will be too much, and then I will start working more with the materials themselves.
And what are you currently reading? Maybe you can recommend us something interesting.
Currently I was reading a short passage of a book by Anna Peraica called In the Age of Total Images, which deals with this view from above and these satellite images. I'm also reading History of Walking by Rebecca Solnit, which is an amazing book that I would recommend, and Rebecca Solnit is one of my favorite authors. So these two, and like classical art stuff from Eflux and similar, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more questions?
We don't have anything here in the chat, but I have one question. I'm sorry if this was something that was discussed, but in the beginning we didn't have a good sound, so probably the people who are watching us on Facebook also didn't have a chance to hear it. So you are spending your time here in Dominisova, and we see that you had a lot of visitors during these days. So I was wondering, how was this experience? How was it to include people in your process, to be, maybe we can say it like that, to be interrupted on a daily basis, on an hourly basis? Did you gain something from it? Was there some fun situation or some weird interaction during your stay? And did you manage to find a balance between some private time for you to work and to engage with all of these people?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there was surprisingly a lot of people coming, and I wanted a bit more maybe solitude time just to work and read, because reading is kind of, it's hard to shift your attention from reading to talking with people, but But on the other hand, it was great. I made some really great connections and met some great people. So I don't know what the audience already heard what I was saying or not. I wouldn't go into mentioning anyone or any situation specifically, but I did meet a whole variety of people from, I don't know, people who work on the academy here in Split, on the art academy, to just passerby, how do you say it? Yeah, people who are passing by and just interested in what I do. So, I mean, this is great. It's always, I think we artists love talking about our work, and we like people coming in. It's always a question of having a perfect balance between work time and presentation time, and I would prefer more work time, but still I have 2 more days to go, and I think I will do more research and meet more people. So I don't want to discourage anybody from coming. If anybody wants to come, I'm here in Dominisova 3, I think, or 4? 4, okay. So yeah, they can come here and stop by.
And how was it to have like working shifts? I guess this is something that you are not used to. You have to go to work and then.
Well, it's okay actually. Maybe if I was making something, if I was in material practice, then I guess I would just ignore this and stay here for all the time. But with this reading, it's really like an office job. I come here, read, I go for lunch, so it's great actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Do we have more questions?
We don't have anything in chat. Maybe somebody wants to ask anything. They can do now.
If not, you who are in Split can still visit Teen until Monday morning. So, Teen, maybe you would just like to end up with just sharing once again what you're working on, just briefly, and inviting people to come.
Yes. So, yeah, people are invited to come here tomorrow from 10 in the morning until 1 p.m. and from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. and on Monday from 10 in the morning until 1 p.m. We can just meet and talk, and I can share with them the project I'm working on, the research for the project, and show some sketches, and that's it. Yeah.
Do you still have some paths you would like to walk on around Split?
Yeah,
You've been on Mayan, but do you...
Well, actually, if I had more time, I would love to go to Kozjak and to Mosor. This won't happen this time, but I for sure will come back even this year to go there.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dean, very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Do keep us updated about this project. We are very curious to hear, to see what it will come out of it.
Me too.
And thank you once again for coming and participating in this project. And we hope that the stay here was nice and you will have nice memories of this period here.
Of course, the stay was great, and thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity.
And you still need to cook something here.
Yes. I just need to learn how to turn these big stoves on. Yeah. Okay, goodbye to everybody, and thank you for your attention and listening to us.